just feel like starting is just like the hardest part.
It is.
I mean, I'm sure you're.
It always is.
I'm sure
I'm very
you're aware
familiar
of
with
it.
starting it. It's really hard.
It's like. Okay.
Okay.
What do you think? Let's look at the camera. 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Defenders of Zion. My name is Kayla.
I'm Addison.
And we are the Tweeties.
Yep. Again.
We have like an awkward, like, okay, how do we start?
Well, when you did it, I was going to say, welcome to Tweety's Take.
Oh, my word.
So.
Yeah, his channel. Today we're going to be talking about, it's like kind of our
Are we
testimony.
not starting again?
What? No.
Oh.
I told you, we got one shot.
Oh. Okay. All right, right into it. Let's go.
What's the first one? I can't even remember. Do not miss your chance to blow.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's a phrase in between. Right?
You only get one shot. Do not miss a chance to blow.
Okay, whatever. I haven't listened to it in forever.
This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Yo. Okay. Yeah, so we are, it's not really quite our testimony, because I feel like testimony is more like a current, like where we are, but it's like a conversion story. So we want to talk about like why we are members, or like what made us become dedicated to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
Because we both were born and raised.
Right, but everyone has their own individual
like defining moments, I feel like.
Conversion stories.
Yeah. So anyway, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do anything before, or just jump straight in?
No, I think we can go right into it.
Okay. So I am pretty sure that nobody knows like the full entire, like, how many years? 5-year long story, because it really is like a long.
When did it start?
It started at 12 years old.
Okay.
So what happened is, when we go to the temple as members, you do an interview with your bishop, which is like the person who watches over like the congregation. And so you do an interview with them, or like one of their counselors, which is just like an aide.
Right.
And I was doing an interview with a counselor, and I was talking to him, and I said that I didn't, I felt like guilty. I didn't know if I was worthy because I had listened to music with bad words. And as a tender 12-year-old, and even like now, like I still, okay, anyway, back up. As a tender 12-year-old, that was very difficult for me, because I felt like, I had done wrong. I needed to repent. It was a big deal.
You get so down on yourself.
Yeah, because you're so innocent. Like, and I feel like everyone technically should be at that innocence level.
Right.
In the sense where your spirit is that sensitive to, things that are crude. But especially as a 12-year-old, you haven't seen the world.
Yeah, you haven't been desensitized, hopefully, yet.
Yeah, and so anyway, as a 12-year-old, I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't go, I'm not, and I was expressing these concerns to the counselor, and he like blew me off. He's like, no, you're fine. That's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And that was like the first thing that made me be like, that like pushed me away from the church.
Why did that push you away?
Because it was not, he didn't like validate the fact that I felt that I should be repenting. Instead of being like, oh, I see this as a real concern for you.
Yeah.
Let's walk through the steps of how to help you feel better about that.
Right. Yeah, because repentance is a personal process.
Yeah, and
he can't speak for you, what you feel.
And each person has their own things that they feel need to be repented of.
Right.
And that was my thing. And I don't think he understood, or maybe he was going quickly or that kind of thing. Because they go through the whole youth in one 1 hour block.
Right.
And so they're trying to get through all of them. So I'm sure it was just going fast.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that pushed me away because I didn't feel validated. I felt like, I was like, oh, I guess I can't trust that feeling. That this doesn't make sense. This is confusing. Yeah. So that pushed me, because of the confusion, it made it so that I was having a harder time like with the church. And I didn't want to be like, I'm the type of person where if it doesn't make sense, then I don't want anything to do with it.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very much like, it has to be logical and it has to make sense. And that thing it was like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand, kind of thing.
That's interesting that the turning away from the church, I guess, had to do with the fact that you felt like you needed to repent.
Yeah.
Where you would think that would turn you towards it, right?
Where you're like, I need to repent.
But then because someone...
But I think it was just lack of knowledge as a 12-year-old.
Sure.
Like, I was still, like, finding out excuse me, how this worked and like what it meant to me and how
Right.
I could do it myself.
Sure.
So anyway, so that pushed me away. So then throughout 12 to 17, I was like hashtag rebellious teenager, but I really wasn't because I wasn't even a bad kid. But it was more like some friends of mine wanted to invite me over and they're like, "Oh, well, we're going to be drinking. Do you want to come? You have to sleep over." And I was
Right.
like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be fun." I
Right.
think I was like 15 or 16 or something.
Sure.
But my mom didn't allow sleepovers, so that didn't happen. But it
Right.
was like that kind of idea where I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, let's do this."
Right.
And
You have the attitude of it.
exactly. And like, I didn't listen to great music and I didn't like, hang around great people. And yeah, so it wasn't like I did anything crazy. I wasn't like, going out and partying or anything like
Right.
that because
Right.
I really was still like a good kid.
Right.
But I had a very negative energy and it actually I feel like more affected my mental health where
Yeah.
that was
That
a
makes
time where
sense.
like my depression showed up and like eating disorders and all that kind of stuff. So like it
Right.
was very like mentally challenging at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then fast forward to I had just graduated high school and I was just about to turn 17 and I had pushed my parents so hard because I wanted to I had started learning Spanish and I wanted to go to a foreign country and learn the culture because I loved it. It was so fun. And also, I was pretty dang sure I was going to marry someone Hispanic.
Ooh.
I think,
Not Hispanic.
yeah, I think I missed the mark on that one. Yeah, so I was like set. Like that was my goal. Was like I will marry someone Hispanic. I want them to speak Spanish, and we'll raise our kids to be bilingual. And I
What was
mean,
the original, like, purpose of going there? Was it, like, to learn the culture a little bit more? Was it to learn Spanish a little
it's
bit
definitely
more?
Spanish. I
Or was
wanted to
it
be like fluent.
and was it also did you want to get away from your parents and just have that time and or was it
No, because
just
actually, I forget. Like the month or
actually?
two, actually, the month or two before I started going, I was actually doing really well with the church. Like in the sense, I was starting to feel the spirit more. I was wanting to be more involved.
What was turning you back?
I don't remember at that point.
Oh, okay.
All I can say is that I was, and maybe it was because I was being more honest and working hard because I was
Right.
trying to earn money. I had this goal. I had this vision. I had to get done
Sure.
with school. I had tournaments with my sport that I was doing that I was really working hard to prepare for. So I had all of these like big goals. I was working hard. I was dedicated,
So
and
you're in the
so
headspace to be determined and
yeah,
to
and so I think that kind of like changed my like shift my perspective to like what is good for me, where do I want to go, kind of thing.
okay.
So then I had been pestering for months, and my parents in December of 2016 were like, okay, you want to do this? We found a program that we're comfortable with. I can promise you they do not recommend it anymore. But they found a program they're comfortable with. It was in Peru, which my dad had served his mission there for 2 years. So he knew
Yeah.
I mean, not that that really helped
Well, I mean,
because
it is easier to send your kid to someplace that they're familiar with.
no, because tell me you would not stress if Indy wanted to go to Ghana and you're like, oh, that's not safe.
Eh, yeah, it
Like, you see
depends.
a lot of
Like I
dangerous
could see both
things.
sides of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I definitely went to, like, the touristy area, so it was safer,
Right.
but it's also, like, the target area because tourists, but
Right.
anyway, so they found a program, they found the country because I don't think I was set on anything anywhere, and then I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, so then I worked for the next 6 months for my dad, and I had to raise $2,000, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to raise $2,000. And at the time, I was graduating a year early. I was training like daily, I believe, if not more than twice a day. And yeah, so I had all this stuff on my plate. So
Nice.
anyway, so I would work for my dad, and we were actually demoing the house that we ended up living in
Yeah. Okay.
for a year, no, 2 years. So we were demoing that house. And so I actually did like the taking the stuff out and like tossing it and
Gotcha.
like all the heavy lifting and that kind of thing.
No hammers, nothing like that, like smashing countertops or
No, that was already done. No, I was more I can't even remember, but I was like taking out oh, okay, yeah. So I was taking out drywall that they'd already taken out because at that time they'd already like cut out the bad, like the
Gotcha.
the rotten drywall.
Right.
And then this is the thing that I did the majority of the time. I removed staples from the floor I stapled the
Oh,
carpet.
that's a fun
It was
job.
the most tedious and annoying thing.
Yeah, I did that and scraped up my knees because I kept on jamming against the staples that were in the ground.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I was clumsy with it,
Yeah,
but,
you wear
like,
pants?
it shorts? It
There are
was
solutions here.
yeah, I know.
Very easy solutions to this problem. Put down like a piece of
Right,
cardboard.
yeah, I just thought, "Okay,
Anyway.
do the job."
No, it's funny because I'm thinking back and I'm like, I don't even remember like what I did, but I know I worked like tons of hours. And I was like, my dad is really, really great about working with us kids in terms of like paying us fairly
Mm,
and um like giving us jobs that we are capable of doing and that kind of thing.
yeah,
And so because he is so willing to work with us, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like take more than like 30 minutes for lunch.
right,
I'm just gonna go, go, go. But I can't even remember what I did the majority of the time. I
right.
know I picked up like shingles because they redid the roof.
Mhm.
But yeah, just stuff like
So
that.
you're just picking up, helping.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I did that to raise money. And then I also worked at my dad's trailer business and I made all the money that I needed. And then
So when you
my
say raise money, you mean you worked
I
for
worked for it.
okay.
I wasn't like a
It
GoFundMe.
wasn't like
Hey.
door to door, "Hey, I'm planning
No,
this trip."
no. It would be
Okay.
door to door.
Oh, some
It'd be like
people.
instant message to instant
Right.
message.
"Hey, I'll show your the pictures that I take at Peru so you can
Right?
live
Hey, you wanna see my
vicariously."
amateur pictures? Yeah. Yeah, so then my parents and I hopped on a plane and flew to Peru. And my parents stayed I think they stayed in Peru for a week, but they stayed with me for like 3 or 4 days or something. And
Mm,
then they went to Lima. That's the area my dad served in and kind of like explored there a little bit.
gotcha.
And so the first few days, um, my dad or my parents and I went to like Machu Picchu and did other things. I don't even
I'm
remember.
sure.
Right? I should
Yeah.
remember this.
You
Anyway,
weren't sick in bed for the first 2 days or
no, I wasn't actually. That came later.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So I was in Peru. We were traveling, and it was great. I was having a great time. We visited the ward, like the congregation that I'd be visiting at that time.
So you saw the people
I saw the
there.
people.
Okay.
And we set up like going to like the youth groups and that kind of thing. Cause at the time I was still 17, so I was still like a youth.
Right.
And I remember distinctly sitting in church and the fact that I could understand nothing.
Mm,
And I was like, this sucks.
yeah.
And so that
Yeah,
was one of the
that would be
biggest
hard.
it was so I mean, you understand, not
Mhm.
being able to understand people in
Yeah,
Ghana.
and they're speaking English.
Right. Yeah. So, but and the thing, one of the main reasons I couldn't understand them is because I didn't learn any like church vocabulary.
Right, right, it's totally
It's
different.
completely different words. I knew nothing. Like in school, they just teach you like
Conversational.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I remember distinctly thinking, this sucks. I don't understand anything. This is a long time to just sit here. Like, this is kind of weird. And
sure.
I felt uncomfortable and that kind of thing. And so that was kind of like a turn off towards like continuing to like keep myself
Yeah,
going in the right direction.
right.
And on top of that, at the same time, there were people who I lived with this host and it was a family. It was like the mom, dad, the two sons, and a daughter. And they're all in their 20s, the kids.
Mm,
And actually, I think the oldest might have been in his 30s, regardless.
yeah,
So the people from the program would live in their home. And so it was like me, two other girls for sure, and then I can't remember at that point how many other people there were.
okay.
But there are a few other
So
like
it's quite a good number of people there.
yes, within the home there's anywhere between like 5 or 6.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
because they had like 2 bedrooms upstairs and I think 2 downstairs. So
So
anyway.
this was a pretty decent place then that you're
Oh
staying
yes,
at.
this was like the exception. Like they were
Okay,
decently well off.
okay.
Not many places were like that. They owned like this whole complex. Like
Oh,
it was almost
wow,
like yeah, I think they owned the whole complex and they rented out the top one
wow,
even. So then they had the main floor and the second floor and then the top one was rented out and then they had a roof.
wow, okay.
Yeah. So it was decent sized. And like it was only no, it was like 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, 1 bathroom. So like yeah, it was decent sized. Yeah. Anyway, so at the same time, there are other people that I was living with and associating with that back up. I feel like I should have thought about this beforehand because I
Back
have
up,
so many
back
like
up,
tangents
back
and
up.
such. So I became really good friends with one of the sons. And
Right.
he was like showing me around the city and that kind of thing. And at
I
one
didn't even
point,
know that.
yeah. No, I told you. You just don't
Not
remember.
showing around the city. I just knew that.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. So you
yeah.
showed me some sites, which is funny because like at the time I had like no idea where we're going because I had no like I had no understand.
Compass
Yeah, I
or
had no like
whatever.
compass or understanding of like the layout of the city.
Yeah.
And then later when I like revisit those areas and connect the roads in my mind, I was like, oh, I went here literally on like the first day that I showed up.
Right.
But anyway, tangent. I became really good friends with him. He was kind of showing me around. And then at one night, he took me to one of the discotecas,
Right.
which is the clubs. And
Mm, mm.
yeah, we were only there for like 3 minutes. And I was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And he was actually, I was like, I can't remember. I think I said, I don't want to do this or I don't want to be here. I can't remember. I think I
Did he
said,
know where he was taking you?
I
Or was
don't
it
I
more
don't
like, hey, I got this
remember. I don't
place. Come on.
remember. I don't remember. But I think I said I don't want to do this
Right.
because we were like kind of like dancing and then he was like, "Oh, okay." And he took it as like I didn't want to like dance with
Be with
him.
him. Right.
Yeah, and then I was like, "No, no, no. I don't want to be here" because I just felt uncomfortable. And so he's like, "Oh, okay." So then he took me out and we went we went to a hookah bar. And I
Oh,
didn't know what
better.
hookah was.
Much better.
Right? And so for those people watching at home, a hookah is just like cigarettes on steroids. Like
Right.
it is so much nicotine and like, and I had no idea. I literally thought it was just like, I literally thought it
Oh,
didn't have
no.
any nicotine in it. Like I was so dumb. I had no idea. Stupid. Anyway,
Nice.
so we went to a hookah bar. That's that. And then um that introduced me to those things. And then when I heard the other people saying, "Oh, we're going out, we're doing this, we're doing this." Oh, and then there was also someone else from our church who would also go out with the people. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I wanted to go see like other people from the group because you had like multiple homes that people stayed at.
Gotcha.
And so I met other people like through my Spanish classes there and through other activities that we were doing and
Right.
like the humanitarian aid because that's what we were originally going down for to do humanitarian aid. It's complete, utter.
Right. It kind of derailed like
It was
our
just not even
conversations.
actually a thing.
Right.
Yeah, like that's what I was supposed to go down for, but there was no like checking in. There was no making sure you're doing anything. They didn't even care if you showed up.
Yeah.
And
It
all I
was
was
on
doing
you.
was literally sitting and watching people in a clinic. Like I wasn't actually helping with anything.
Really? So they wouldn't train you or anything?
Like they kind of did, but it's like, oh, I did learn how to take someone's blood pressure.
Nice.
And there's this one time I was working in there, and this is at the beginning because I was still actually going. I was working in there, and there's this guy from Norway
Mm.
or something. He spoke like not very good English. He was probably like 6'5", 6'8", like
Okay.
300 plus pounds. Massive dude. Massive
Okay,
dude.
so like Thor.
But like chunky.
But like
But he's just big.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were practicing. Oh no, I think we were trying to figure out his blood type because I knew my blood type, but he didn't know his. So he took literally like a drop of his blood and he passed out. This 300-pound dude, like, oh my gosh. And this little tiny Peruvian lady is trying to hold him up and I'm trying to hold him up and we're like yelling at people like, get in here, come help us. And he's like, literally, okay, so when people pass out, they don't just go like they slump to the floor.
Right.
Like they're just like,
yeah,
and so
they're
we're
gone.
like trying to support him on this chair. And his body is trying to fall off the chair.
Right.
And it was like, oh my gosh. So then we finally like walked him.
Probably like a big old kid that, you know,
pretty
they're
much.
struggling.
No, it's pretty
or like,
much.
And, it's
And
just
so
dead
we
weight.
finally get him into this like exam room, have him lay down. And I don't even know how we got him there because he was still like in and out of it. And I can't remember what they did. I think they just had him lay down and like chill.
Yeah.
Because he really wasn't like, there's nothing wrong. But I was trying to be Christ-like. So I was like holding his hand and talking to him. But I could see in his eyes that he's like, oh, he's holding my hand. I'm like, I don't want to give you the wrong ideas. And so I actually like, and I did this because
Then
I
you
was
start
trying to be
slapping.
kind. No, I did this because I was trying to be kind. I actually distanced myself like after that whenever we
Yeah.
like saw each other because I was like, I don't want him to get any ideas. Like
Right.
I was just trying to be nice, but I could see it in his eyes that he's like, and it was more like oh, I'm so thankful.
Right.
And you know, oh, a girl's holding my hand.
Right.
So it wasn't like he was like, oh, okay. But it was like, it was more like a sweet, like a little crush is more how I describe the look. Like a little innocent crush. But it's still like, okay, I don't want to lead him on. I don't want, yeah, so. Anyway.
If you're watching this, man,
I apologize. I doubt he'll ever see this. I don't even know if he'd remember me because I don't
Right,
even remember what he
right.
looks like or his name or anything. I
Mhm.
don't even remember where he's from. So many people come in and out. Like, it's literally like some people will be there
Oh,
for
it's
like,
gotta be busy.
well, some people will be there for a week. I was there for 2 months. Like, it is just like, it's crazy.
Right.
Anyway, back to the story. So there are people who were going out at night, and I was like, oh, I want to meet them. I want to see like what this is about. And I think they originally invited me to like the salsa dancing portion because from like 8 to 10 is salsa dancing. And let me tell you, I love it so much. I'm like dying to find somewhere here that we can salsa
Yeah.
dance. And I'm
That'd be
trying to
really
teach
fun.
him because he learned ballroom, which is like,
Yeah.
and
I do
salsa is like
ballroom.
the opposite. It's like loosey goosey, like your whole like your hair sways, like your
Right,
fingertips sway, like everything sways.
right.
And he doesn't know how to. And
Yeah,
it's the
no.
funniest
I
thing.
know upright torso and then your legs.
Yeah, like nothing. It
Like,
is the funniest thing.
just a
Even in
little.
Ghana, the Ghanaian dances are very like rigid too.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, so I portray him as rigid.
I was
They're
gonna
a
say
little bit looser
I've
than
never
that.
seen actual.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It's all for me.
that's so
I'm just
funny. Yeah,
rigid
anyway.
dancer.
So I went to the salsa dancing portion. I did do a little bit of salsa dancing before, so I knew that I already liked it.
Okay.
So we were going out and the LDS person, I believe he went home after the salsa dancing ended.
Mm,
Because I know he didn't do like drinking or anything like that.
right. So he knew to get out.
Yeah, I believe he went home. And then the first night I went out with all my friends, I was like staunch, like no drinking. And there were even people like falling over in the alleyways. They're so drunk. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
these people are idiots. Who would ever
Right.
drink? Like, so dumb. Yeah. So
The
then,
next day.
literally, you say it as a joke, but it was literally the next day. I went out with my friends again. And it's kind of like if you keep doing the same stupid thing, like you're going to give in. So anyway, I went out again. And I was having a great time without like drinking or anything. Like I was fine. But one of my friends was like, hey, if you ever are curious,
Right.
nobody pressured me. They're all great. Like honestly, they're such great people. But it was like, if you want to. And I was like, okay, why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, the church prepares you for if someone offers you a drink and hands it to you, you say no,
And I
right?
didn't say yes the first time.
And so you practice that. But then they're like, "Hey, you can have a drink. We're not going to pressure you,
No,
but
no, no.
they're
It is
available."
not even that.
It's so
It's
different.
not even that. If you walk into a bar every single night, you're gonna drink.
Yeah. Right.
Like you're surrounding yourself with it.
Right.
That curiosity. You see other people having a great time.
Right.
Why not kind of thing.
Right. It's like if you've got fish in the sea
You're
and
gonna
you
eat
want
fish.
to, if you want to make sure that they don't get polluted, then you clean the waters. It's their environment that they're
Uh-huh.
in. If otherwise, if they're polluted and you tell them don't drink the polluted water, they can't do it. They just
Yeah.
take in what they're
Well, that's kind
presented
of
with.
you had
It's
to
their environment.
anyway, literally the next day. I was like, okay, sure, why not? Let's try this. And I think I was also still doing the hookahs because I hadn't realized still that it gave you a buzz, which is
Right.
so dumb. I think I was just like, oh, the water is really good.
I'm super
Right,
tired.
right. No, it's not tired.
Well, I get a buzz. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, regardless. So the first night that I was actually did drink, I remember I literally went outside of the club and I sat down like just out on the road, like with my head in my hands, like I can't think. I hate this feeling. This is
Yeah.
horrible.
Right.
But I will tell you this is why I continued. So the guy that I was originally hanging out with that was showing me the city, I had like a teeny tiny itty bitty crush on him, but it was more like I had a dibs feeling, whereas like
Okay.
he's mine kind of thing. He
Gotcha.
likes me. He finds me attractive, which
Okay.
is bad. Like it was dumb.
Yeah, it's like, little predatorial.
Yes, it was not good. So anyway, so he was out with one of his friends and they were having a great time and it was a girl and I was like, oh, okay. Obviously,
No,
I'm not
playing
anything
games.
special. And so yeah, that was like the thing because I was like, oh, I want to make it look like I'm having a great time then.
Right.
So anyway, so that like
See, I always thought that was just a thing from the movies, but
no, I like
you lived it.
I lived it. Yes, more than once. In the sense there were multiple guys that I was like, well, I want to make it look like I'm having a great time.
No.
Yes, it was dumb. I get it. It was stupid. Anyway, so that just started like the whirlwind effect of going out like almost every single night, partying, drinking a lot. It was dumb. It was stupid. And the reason I share this is not just to be like, well, this is the skeletons in my closet. It's because I see this as one of the most important moments in my life.
Right.
These 2 months that I spent in Peru, because in my opinion, it was long enough for me to get to a certain feeling that I needed to get to, but not too long to where I had given up or I was addicted or
Right.
anything
Past
like
the
that.
point of
No
returning.
return. Yeah. So at the end, when I was literally like coming home, excuse me. Sorry, I always like burp so much.
It's recording.
It's probably because I'm just talking. I'm probably gasping for air because I'm nervous. Anyway, um, so literally at the end, as I'm coming home, we were out like until the club shut down the night before I flew
Wow.
home. It was yeah. So I literally like just zonked on the planes, and then oh my gosh, my mom, she she said, "This is so dumb and so embarrassing, and I don't even like I can't believe I did this." Oh, we went to church once with one of my friends in the midst of everything. I'm like crying because it's just so like funny to me now. But we had gone partying the night before
Oh,
and we
nice.
just reeked of like party, of like,
Right.
you know, the
Right.
cigarette smoke.
Yes. Everything that's
We
there.
looked like we were hungover and we're sitting in church. My hair was like all
You've
messy
got
and
gum in your hair and like.
seriously, and it was just like we were both sitting there and she leans over, she's like, "Kayla, you reek." I'm like, well, you don't smell better, like, than I do. Yeah, we got out of there as fast as we could because we're like, "This is"
Wow.
yeah, because we're uncomfortable. We were not, like had prepared ourselves to be in that space, and
Yeah.
so
Of course not.
especially me, I realized just how far removed I was
Yeah.
from what I had been, a
Right.
few months ago.
Right.
So anyway, so we come home, and I get off the plane. My mom goes to hug me, and she was like I was, like, getting hit in the face with a wall of smoke.
Oh no.
And she's like and it was just like, "Oh, wow."
Oh no.
But she did not say anything for months.
Did she know
I
right
thought I
then?
duped her. Well, I think she
She
knew before. I think moms just
probably knew.
know. I
Yeah.
thought I duped her. I thought she had no idea
Right.
that, anything had
Right.
happened. I was dumb and didn't take a shower.
Yes.
So anyways, I had literally slept. So they picked me up in San Francisco. We live in Redding, which is 4 hours. We lived in Redding, which is 4 hours away. So I had slept like the whole way. Because again, I was up all night
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
But I had this feeling when I came home of just like, I am not happy. My life sucks. I feel so empty. What I was doing was making me feel empty. And that is the fun thing. That is the exciting thing. That's the thing that's supposed to give you joy and happiness is drinking
Right.
and,
Right.
kissing guys and all this stuff is like, that's
Right.
the thing that's supposed to make you happy.
Right.
And it wasn't. And I realized like it like hit me in the face. I was like, I feel empty. I feel like this is just the worst feeling I could have. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, I want to feel happy. I want that joy. I see people who are smiling all the time. Why can't I? Like, where is that kind of thing?
Right.
So I went home and I went back to our old like congregation, our old ward. And I was kind of like talking. So I was still like, oh, look at me. I'm so cool. I went and partied for 2 months.
Right. Yeah. You get the attitude from it. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was telling my friends what I did. And it got back to my mom, which I'm sure she knew anyway.
Sure.
She actually knew, side note, she knew that I got a belly button piercing before I even confirmed it. And it was technically still healing, so like I'm not surprised. But she was like, yeah, it's just the way that you're carrying yourself. You're like kind of protecting it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
How did you know?
Yeah.
Because I eventually bought like different ones, and she's
Mm.
like, oh, and I went to a store and I was like, oh, I'm looking for a friend. I'm gonna buy it for a
Right.
friend. And she's like,
Nice.
I wasn't bored yesterday. Like I was looking at different rings. Anyway, I thought that was funny. So yeah, moms know. So I was talking to my friends and it got all in our congregation, our ward, and literally like my best friend like wrote me off because I was supposed to go to college with her and my parents said, you're not mature enough to go to college.
Right.
And so I was supposed to go to college with her and room with her and they're like, no. And so she got super mad at me, literally never talked to me again except for like messaging a few times, and she did actually come to my reception, which is great. But then all my other friends, because she was the closest, she was the one I was closest with, and everyone else,
Right.
I was just like more friends by association. But I was still like good friends with some of them.
Right.
But everyone stopped talking to me. Even like the leaders of our church,
Wow.
the youth leaders,
Wow.
like wrote me off. And this is still something that like hurts me to this day is the fact that like the ones that were like, I will be here no matter what. If you ever need anything, if you're ever struggling, I'll be here. just like up and ignore
Just
me.
nothing.
And they actually started like talking crap about me and like making like
Wow.
references at my expense. It
Yeah.
was really, really, really heartbreaking. And so I was really, really struggling, didn't want anything to do with it. My mom said, okay, how about you go out to Institute, which is like the young adult ward.
Right. Yeah,
And
it's not a family ward. You're separate from the family ward,
yeah,
so
it's
you
like
had a place to
18 to
go.
25
Right.
is typically, but I wasn't 18, but I'd graduated high school. So they're like, yeah, we'll let her go.
Right.
This was literally the best thing that ever happened to me. And it was like one of the best seasons that Institute has ever had because Reading is not a big city. It's only 90,000.
Yeah.
And that's being like generous.
Right.
And so the young adult population typically in that ward is only like 5 to 10 maybe. And I'm kind of estimating because I could be very off.
Yeah.
But at that time there was like 20.
There's a lot of people, right?
There was so many people. And a lot of them had just gotten back from their missions. And so I went to this ward and they became like my best friend. They
Right.
were so welcoming, so kind. And I just looked at them and I saw just pure happiness and
Right.
pure joy. And I was like, oh my gosh,
I found it.
I found it.
Yeah,
This is,
it's
and then
here.
I was like, okay, how do I get that? Because I want that.
Right.
And so I became really good friends with them and shout out to like all those people, you know who you are. Literally like turned my life around. I don't think they even know. I don't think they even know.
Really
Yeah, because I don't think I ever shared that, like, those people were so, like,
important.
important when it came to turning my life around.
Sure. Yeah.
Is just seeing their example.
Yeah.
And having that friendship and how kind and inviting they were. So
Well,
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just someone's example can change your life
Change your
so
beliefs,
drastically.
change, yeah.
Like someone can be telling you to change,
Mhm.
and tell you and tell you and tell you. But then once you see one person do the right thing, look happy, or there's just something else,
Yeah.
actions speak a
Way
lot
louder
louder
than words, yeah.
than words.
So, I kept going to institute and I started to work with like my bishop to repent because it was like decently big stuff, so it needed like decent work.
Right. Right.
And so,
And he didn't turn you away.
no, they were so he was honestly is like so many of the bishops that I had growing up were like the best bishops I've ever
That's
like
awesome.
had. Like they were just so kind, so loving, so welcoming. Again, if they ever see this, you know who you are. Thank you so
Holla.
much. Right. Holla. Um, yeah, no, they were like just welcomed with open arms. It was amazing.
Good.
And it gave me the ability to just like propel forward.
Mm.
And it like shot me off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like become worthy to go to the temple
Get
again.
everything in line.
I'm going to get everything in line. I'm going to, read my scriptures, say my prayers, like everything.
Right.
And at that time, this guy showed up in my life. And let me tell you, one of the reasons that I'm like, I would never ever take back Peru. I would never ever take back like my ward gossiping about me when I came home. I'd never take back, my friends, disowning me and that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
it just opened so many doors. Like marrying Addison, I would not have even met him
Yeah.
if I had gone to BYU, Idaho. Instead, I went to Provo, which is like, there's multiple locations for BYU. And so I went to Provo, which is what he was going to.
Yeah, that's where I school.
And I actually, I don't even know if I want to say this. I mean, I guess I could.
If you feel like you don't want to.
I just don't want to like make it weird. But
We can
anyway, I was
move
going
on.
to BYU for alternative reasons besides I was like, oh, that's a great school.
Sure.
So anyway, moving on. I met Addison and I was like, and it was like literally right before we were going to go, like I was going to go and then he was taking a little break and was going to go back. And so we met each other, started talking, and we'll get into the rest later. But that is kind of like my conversion story is like just the extreme low of like the party scene and
Right.
this is supposed to make me happy and this is supposed to bring me joy to the extreme high of like I found that happiness, I found that joy, and it just made me cling to it so much that even now when I have really, really, really hard moments
Yeah.
or when I'm like, this sucks, I don't like this, like why am I even doing this? Or, anything like that, any doubts creep in, it's like, this is the only place I've ever found happiness.
Right.
This is the only thing that's ever given me true happiness that has helped me overcome my mental health challenges, that has helped me, become the best person that I can be.
Right.
And yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world, even though it's not a great backstory. Like, it's not the most positive. it'd be nice if it were like, I just read the Book of Mormon for 24 hours and then bam, it came to me. But instead, I had to
Yeah.
go the hard route with lots of repentance,
Well,
lots of pain.
the Apostle Paul was killing Christians before he was converted, so I
I
think you're
I think I
doing
knew
pretty
that, but
well.
it's like when you yeah, yeah. What was I gonna say? Can't remember. But there is one thing that like I wish I had done differently. Obviously, I wish I'd done a lot differently, but not really in the sense like it would have been nice to not experience those
Sure,
things.
sure.
But I'm glad that it brought me to where I was. But a lot of my friends in Peru were very interested in the church,
Oh,
and I didn't take any of them.
yeah.
And a lot of them, I
Bummer.
was like, oh, well, let's go to church. We'll all go together. And then it just never happened because we were always partying the night before.
Right.
So, yeah, that's something that kind of kicked myself because I was like, it would have been nice to open that dialogue with other
Yeah,
people.
if that opportunity is there, it's nice too.
Yeah.
Especially if they were the ones saying,
Yes, they
"Hey,
were
let's
very
go to
interested because I
church."
think it was like, they're like, oh, what church do you belong to? And I'd say, this is what I always said. I think my mom even heard it. I would say, my family
Oh,
belongs to the Church of Jesus
yes.
Christ of Latter-day Saints
Right.
because at that time, I did not want to be associated.
Right. You weren't proud of
Yes, exactly. And I actually remember this is another person that like affected my life a lot by the example that they set. And I was at youth conference and I was talking to this guy and I was wearing a girls camp sweatshirt. And girls camp is like the camp that young women go to, like as in 12 to 18
it.
go
Right.
to. That's just girls where it's just like really spiritually uplifting.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's in cabins. It's great. I love it. So I was wearing a sweatshirt from that. And I said, kind of passing, I don't even know how this came about because it's not like the guy commented on my clothes ever. But I was wearing the sweatshirt and I was like, yeah, I like it because you can't tell, it was a church camp.
Right.
And he says, why
Why wouldn't?
no, it was like, why are you embarrassed to I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like, why are you embarrassed to have other people know you're a member of the church or something
Sure.
along those
Yeah.
lines?
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking, I'm like, why am I? Like, why is this even a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Why should
that
you
that
be
like
feeling
one
that?
question was that one question was like, oh, it got me thinking.
Right.
So
Well, when you're hanging around certain circles, it's always the cool thing to rag on church.
oh
The
yeah,
cool thing to rag on
family,
religion,
church,
family,
yes,
everything because you want to.
parents,
I'm not.
especially.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's exactly you want to be edgy, but you want to
You
be.
want to be you want to be included, and the world makes you believe that that's how you have to be.
Right.
And even nowadays, excuse me, you see in moms groups that the cool thing is to rag on their husband,
Right.
and it drives me insane. And I'm like, not happening.
Right.
Because you should never criticize your husband. Yes, you can talk about things that are hard or things that, you know, are silly that they might do,
Right.
but never ever criticize, never ever gossip, never ever, bring that person down because that person is supposed to be like the person that brings you closer to God.
Right.
You are supposed to lift that person up and support them
Absolutely.
and not do the opposite when they're
Absolutely.
not around. Okay. Tangent. Your turn.
So that was it.
I mean, yeah. There's like a whole it's always
Right. I mean,
changing,
it's
it's
always
always like ebbing
continuing.
and
It's always
flowing
like
and
even now it's
but that
still
was like the
going.
big like defining thing was just the feeling of I'm doing what the world tells me will bring me happiness and it is not. And then I did what the world tells you won't bring you happiness or won't bring you real happiness
Right.
that it's
And
just
it
in your
did.
head and it brought me more joy, a husband, a family, like everything.
Right.
It's given me everything.
Right.
Is really like what it comes down to
Yeah.
a relationship with my family, a relationship, with other wonderful people.
Yeah. With the experiences that you've had, would it be possible to lose that testimony? Like,
Oh, absolutely. I feel like anyone can lose sight of things because if you don't actively, it's the same thing like a muscle. If you don't actively
yeah.
work it, if you're not actively like putting in the effort, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And so this is the thing that I will say is even throughout all of this, when I was kissing more boys than I should, when I was, drinking and all that kind of stuff, never once in my mind did I ever think that I would get married outside of the temple.
Mm.
I was like, I will always get married outside of the temple. And then part of that was I will never ever be intimate with someone who's not my husband.
Right.
And so even in all of this stuff that I was doing, this is the crazy thing, because even my mom was like, I don't know
How did
how.
you escape
Yeah,
that?
I don't know how you were able to like do the things you're doing and not like have it lead to that. And I was like, I just said no. Like there was nowhere in my head that I was like, I would let myself do that. And I was in a very blessed position that there were things that there was nothing that happened to me that I did not want to happen. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't want to like go into more
Yeah,
detail.
you're good.
So even within all that, even within it was just the fact that I was raised in a family that had taught me these principles and this doctrine that I could not refute because I knew they were true in my heart. And so even if I were to get like so far removed from the church, like way down the road, I would never ever ever be able to like say that's not true.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if could ever admit it, because if I admitted it, that would mean that um I was not living like that, and
Right.
I'm gonna have a rude awakening after I die.
Right.
But I would never say that's not true. I would never denounce it, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you like so yes, I still feel like it is possible to fall away. It's possible to lose that testimony. It's possible to get into a place that's not positive,
Right.
but I would never, ever, ever be able to say that's not true. I'd never be able to say that Heavenly Father doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'd never be able to say that, we don't live after this life.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be maybe more you feel like you cannot live in line with those principles anymore.
Yes. Yes. But I would know in my heart that they're true.
Right.
Because I feel like anyone who's actually had that confirmed to them could never like deny it without knowing they're denying
Right.
truth.
Right. And it's going to eat away.
And I've seen so many people that when they know the truth and then they go away from the truth are plagued with so much depression and so much anxiety and so much like
Right.
heartache.
Right.
There's someone very close to me who has gone away, and they have not lived up to the standards that they were raised
Right.
living. And their life is so full of pain and heartache and trials because they have and even like the person will talk with a close family member and say, I'm trying, um and I know that, I should be doing this, but I just can't. So
Right.
even when, they're not living like that, or they're trying to deny it or that kind of thing, because, you go back and forth. Um, they just can't deny it. They just
Right.
can't deny that that's what they feel like they
Right.
should be doing.
Yeah, they feel like they just can't measure up to that.
Yes. And I feel like that's more what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. For me,
Take it away, Ernie.
I mean, mine is going to be shorter, but it really started when
Real quick.
so I
You know what I was referring to, right?
yes.
Okay, I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
you've asked me
I just want to make sure
multiple
because it
times
like
about that quote.
yeah, I want to know that I'm appreciated.
Yes. And then
All right.
I ask you who said it.
It's the heads.
Yes.
Okay,
You
in
got
Harry
that from
Potter.
me.
Yes, okay, go. I just had to make sure
Yes.
that my quotes were being appreciated.
She uses that one.
I do all the time.
Every other day or so.
Whatever.
So for me, I was baptized at 8, just like is normal in the church. And then at 12 years old, so a little bit before that, I was really questioning if the church was true, if the doctrines were true, if I should continue to grow in the gospel, because at my school there was a group of kids who I had been hanging out with a little bit. Not really yet, but I was familiar with them.
Yeah.
And their standards were adverse to
Questionable.
to what I had been grown up with.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if the church was true and if I should align myself with the principles. I had a time where my teacher, for their not the Aaronic priesthood, but like they're preparing you to receive the
Yeah.
Aaronic priesthood.
Okay.
And so in that class, the teacher said, "Hey, I'm giving you all a challenge. Read the Book of Mormon by the end of the year. I give you 1 year to do it." So I said, "Okay." And then he said, "Pray to know if it is true." Now I was going to be turning 12 that year, and so I said, "Okay, I commit to that. I'll just do it." And so I did. I read the Book of Mormon. I think it was every day. And if there were days that I missed, I just got right back to it. It was just go through finish it. And then I remember at the end, it was like a week or 2 weeks before I was turning 12. And I thought, okay, I need to know if the church is true. Because if not, and I receive the Aaronic priesthood, well, as more, if it's not, then
I
I'm
feel
not
almost like a
going to
lie
get the
kinda
Aaronic
thing. Oh, okay,
priesthood.
yeah.
It was, I am not going to do that because it is not true.
Mhm.
So I had already made up my mind about it. I prayed and I received a pretty strong testimony from it. I
Yeah,
received revelation from God that it was true.
yeah.
Um, and coming away from that experience, I thought, okay, I know absolutely,
Without a doubt.
without a doubt, that what I saw, what I received from God was from Him. I had no doubt.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just the feelings that were involved with the revelation. It was just the whole experience
Yeah,
together. You could tell it was
yeah,
from God.
yeah.
Then after that, I it's funny because I knew the church was true, it became harder for me to live the
Yeah,
gospel because I just found myself not measuring up to the
yeah.
standards. Right. And so I surrounded myself. Am I too slow?
No, I just it's kinda like when you know the big picture, and so I'm just thinking about the things that you've told me about this time period. And no,
Okay.
it's just funny. Like, it's
Okay.
not funny, it's more
Well,
like
if you have anything you want to like add or say in the
no, no,
middle
no,
of
because
it,
it's your story, so I don't wanna, like, share
I
what
also
more
want you
with
to be asking questions and stuff like
I
that
was
too.
just gonna say something along the lines of, like, so you know how my 12-year-old to 17-year-old self was struggling? Well,
Right.
you did the exact same thing,
Yes.
like, it
Yes.
was this I mean, although yours was, like, to 18 or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was roughly the
Because
same.
that was, like, when you're getting ready to go on your mission.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I was more laughing because I was gonna make a joke about, like, how, like, "Alright, well, you know the story from my part, it's the exact same thing that happened to
Yeah.
you."
Yes. And that's the end of the story. So,
Right.
so yeah. After 12, things went really downhill.
Mhm.
There was a member of the church though, and I think this really influenced me because he was like the popular kid at church, but he wasn't following the standards of the gospel. And so, because he wasn't following the standards of the gospel, but I saw him as
Yeah.
cool, I saw him as being in the in crowd.
Yeah.
I wanted
To
to
be like him or
to
be friends with
emulate
him,
him, and
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And he was older. He was like 3 years older, and so I was, he is already in high school in
Mhm.
uh probably sophomore, junior, and I was trying to emulate the behaviors that he had learned from high school.
Yeah.
And I had already been attuned to it because in middle school, there was a group that I'd seen that I kind of talked with who also had those
I feel like
same.
middle school is almost, like, just as raunchy
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
high
it's like the
school.
gateway.
Yeah.
And so then
Just
in
throw you into the deep end, and then it
right,
just gets deeper, but you're still in the deep end.
right,
But yeah,
right.
anyway.
So yeah, I always hung out with the older kids, but they were always into darker stuff.
Just
They were trying
inappropriate.
to figure things out, but I let that influence me more than I should have.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring it back to my parents. I just hid
Mhm.
everything. I hid everything under the rug and just let it pile up. Well, eventually,
It's a
um,
big pile.
after multiple girlfriends, yeah,
It's a
multiple
really big pile.
girlfriends, language issues, and just a whole bunch of things that started to happen in my
Go
life.
down the laundry list.
Right.
Just kidding.
My mom eventually found out,
Yeah.
and my parents found out,
His
and
parents
so
know.
right,
Yeah.
and so my parents talked with me about it, and I just remember it being pretty harsh. I felt like I wasn't receiving what I needed.
Mhm.
Um, and that's not on them. It's just
I don't think it's uncommon though because like my mom has talked about this too. When you find out, like when you think your kid's doing one thing
right,
and you find out that they're doing the opposite and then some,
right.
it's
Yeah, your whole world
yes, like
turns
you're
over.
blindsided.
Yeah,
And my mom has had that happen a few times. And so yes, like
yeah,
the first kid that it happened with, it was the exact same thing where she was just like, it was not received well. She didn't react well. I feel
yeah,
like it's just a very human thing
yeah, yeah.
to
And
not
so
receive that and
yeah,
incredible perception change
right.
well.
And so I felt like I didn't receive what I needed. Nothing on my parents, but I
But you
just
also weren't communicating what you
weren't
needed.
communicating
Yeah.
well. I was not communicating well.
Mhm.
I was not telling him what I needed. I was
Yeah.
not, and I felt like I couldn't tell him those things because I felt so bad about what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And so why would I want to talk about it
And
more
make it worse.
and make it worse?
Yeah.
And so instead bottled it up again
Which made it even
and
worse.
kept on going
Yeah.
down. Yeah. And so eventually, it got to a point where I went off to BYU and it just got to the point where I was dealing with depression. I put on Family Guy for a whole
Oh
day
my
and just
word.
let it run while I was in my bed. I had my computer screen turned to me and was watching that, and I fell asleep. And I woke up 5 episodes later with Netflix saying, are you still watching?" And I
So who
press
knows
it.
how long it had been on that
There
already
was one
watching
day,
screen.
right? There's one day where I just watched that. I had my
It's
corn
insane.
dogs that I
Oh my
heated
gosh.
up because I didn't want to do any work.
His diet before we got
Oh, it's
married,
horrible. Horrendous.
quesadillas and corn dogs. That's
Yes,
it. Oh,
yes,
and Five Guys burgers because he worked
yes.
there.
It's great depression food though, because you really don't have to put any effort into it. It's, you
I
don't
thought you meant
have
like
to.
the Great Depression.
Oh,
I
no,
was like,
no.
wow, that's
No, I
harsh.
mean like when you're down,
Yes, yeah.
all you want to do is just,
I mean, it depends on the
for
person. Some
me,
people don't like to eat. Other people eat more.
right.
I think yours was just more like just surviving kind of thing
Yeah.
on what you needed.
Yeah, I need fatty foods and like all this
Yeah.
stuff. And so for me, I just needed something simple and then
Yeah.
my movies. And so that's what I
Yeah.
did. I probably completed, I think it was upwards of 50 seasons of different shows that
Same.
semester.
That's
And I'm sorry to the person who in recommended me to work as a janitor, because as soon as that hit, like I was good for a little bit,
yeah.
and then as soon as that started to hit, um, they had recommended me, and now I wasn't showing up to work, and I wasn't, and so
Yeah.
I'm sorry that that showed bad on you,
Right.
but so anyway, went through that whole ordeal. I was suspended from BYU and went home, um, and then I went on my mission. And but I prepared myself while I was at home for my mission. I said,
Yeah.
okay,
You need to clean
I
yourself
just need to
up.
clean everything up. I
Yeah.
need to get ready. I need to go. I need to just go away and devote
Yeah.
myself to the gospel.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like what you said. When you hit low,
Mm-hmm.
you realize what you're doing wrong.
Well,
And
I
you
think you
realize
also
that
realize just the gap.
you have, yeah,
When you're so far from the light and the truth,
right.
like you're like, oh wow, that looks really great up there. And this is
Right.
really far away now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also helped that I tore myself away from that environment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was at home, which allowed my mind to change and
Mm-hmm.
shift. And I was no longer living in that same. Plus, how could I hide that from my parents now? You
Just
know,
staying in bed all day. Yeah. No.
yeah, no, I couldn't hide that anymore. So I said, okay, I just
I was
need
gonna
to
say your
live.
mom wouldn't allow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Get outside, go bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, went on my mission and had the most amazing experiences there
When you dedicated
when
yourself.
I
Yeah.
dedicated myself. There are times when I didn't. And when the times that I didn't dedicate myself came along,
It got hard
it
again.
got really, really
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah. But my conversion story is basically kind of the same lines as
I
yours
feel
too.
like most are.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
yeah.
like when you see that the happiness and the light and the truth, it's like,
Sure.
oh, I want that. And you go
Sure.
get it.
And there are some people who just know right away and then align themselves right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they still take detours.
Yeah, I would
Everyone takes
say there are definitely
detours.
people who their detours are like, you know,
Some are 1 degree.
one wrong turn.
Yeah.
It's like you take the off ramp and you get right back on.
Right.
And then there are other people like us who
Yeah.
take that off ramp, go a few states over, maybe hop on a plane, go to another
Right.
country,
Yeah.
like me,
Right.
hop back and be like, okay, I think I'm ready to get back
Right.
on that freeway.
Yeah. I took like 2 left turns and then went down an off road and then
Back
off a
streets
cliff and
yeah.
then swam across an ocean and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you learn great things.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But really what brought me back was realizing that I can live like
Yeah.
that it literally
When I think that's
would tear me
huge
apart.
is like that you can't live like that.
Right.
You can survive like that
Right.
because you were and I was, but you can't live like that.
Yeah,
You
surviving
can't.
isn't living.
Yeah, you can't enjoy your life like that, and we are
Right.
made to enjoy life.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. What did
Yes.
you learn about me that you didn't know?
So I learned that what brought you away from the church was repentance.
Okay.
I don't believe that I had
I don't
connected
I don't think
that
I've shared
before.
with very many people that that was the first thing.
Right.
And like I said, I don't even know if anyone's heard the full story. I don't think my mom even has.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and I also didn't know that your mom smelled the smoke when you got off the
yeah. I
plane.
didn't know until like I think even like maybe a year later
Yeah.
when you were talking about it, because I talk about it frequently because there's so many things that I've learned from it. Um, and she told me that I'm like, you did not. You're kidding me. But it's kind of like, okay, so when I came back, I didn't do anything like ever again. Like I have not drunk. I have not done anything. The only one thing I did, I smoked one cigarette after I got back
Right.
because this is a really lame reason. But I was working at this place and one of the cooks what smoked, which sounds great, right? So one of the cooks smoked and he was out smoking and I was just having a bad day because like the manager had got or not manager, owner had gotten on me,
Mhm.
which is a whole nother story. Oh, we should talk about our past jobs. That would be fun.
Okay.
Anyway, so he'd gotten on me.
The
So I was
best
out
stories.
complaining and he's just like, oh, do you want a cigarette? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Because it's kind of like it was like I was in a mentality of what do I want to do?
Yeah,
What do I want my life to look like? Where do I want it to go? So I was like, okay, do I want my life to go this way? So I
sure.
tried the cigarette, tried it, I smoked the cigarette. Then I went home. Nobody was home, and that's why I did it. I went home, I could smell it on myself.
Yeah.
And I literally like threw all my clothes in the wash. I showered, I scrubbed my hands so that you couldn't smell it. And even after that, I could still smell it on
Oh,
my
yeah, it
fingers.
gets under your
It's
fingertips and
everywhere.
everywhere.
And after I finished all that, I was like, that's not worth it. I'm never doing that again. It's
Right,
way too much work.
right.
And then I had one other experience where the same guy I had like a birthday party that he was inviting me over to. And he had already said, I mean, I think he was in like his 30s. And again, I was still 17.
Nice.
And he even, okay, this is the thing. I'm pretty sure it would have been a bad situation because he invited me earlier. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah, getting
and I'd
bad
gotten
vibes.
weird vibes. Yeah. So anyway, so he invited me over. He'd already talked about there being alcohol and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go. But then, and I don't think I ever told my mom this, but they were going to the lake. And I was like, "Oh, my boss needs me to work,
Oh,
so I could
no.
stay home." So then I was totally planning, but I had a really bad feeling, so I didn't go. But I was totally
Yeah,
planning, but then in my head, I was like, "How am I gonna go drink alcohol
yeah,
and then not smell like alcohol and not be
yeah,
drunk? Like,
no.
how am I even gonna drive home? That's not gonna work." So anyway, I chickened out, didn't go. The guy actually got really upset at me.
Sure.
And then my mom came home. She's like, "Oh, you didn't work?" I'm like, "Oh, he canceled on me. Said he didn't need me."
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the only two things where I was like, still trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go, but through those experiences, I was like, hard pass, never
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
Also, it just smells so bad and it tastes so bad. Like, I don't know even how I did it because now when I smell cigarette smoke, I'm like,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
overwhelming.
disgusting. I wouldn't say it's disgusting because I don't want to insult. It really does not smell good. It does not smell good. It's not pleasing.
Yeah,
It's smoke. Like, you burn something, it doesn't smell good.
right.
It's smoke. Anyway, okay, now I think what I learned about you, I didn't know. Hmm. Oh, I didn't know that it was someone in your ward that
Yeah,
had such a huge influence on you. I
yes,
don't think
yeah.
we've ever talked about that.
Yeah, no, no. I never thought of
And
it.
that definitely played a huge part in mine too, is just seeing like all these older cool people
Right.
and they were doing all these things and I was like, "Oh, well, I want to do all those
Yeah,
things."
yeah,
So, they're having boyfriends and drinking and all that stuff,
right.
which I mean never really happens ever actually. Um I think I would just chose guys that I knew I'd never be able to be with.
Mm.
And like, yeah, it just never happened. Like I had tons of crushes and I had tons of people that I liked, but never liked me back. Actually, my dance teacher from forever ago, and he wasn't actually even my teacher, it was more like it's a group of homeschool kids. We'd
Okay.
all go and dance and he taught that group. So I had a massive crush on this guy. And I just turned 16 because you have to wait the date when well, not wait. You don't have to. It depends on the house. My mom was like, can't date before you're 16 with me anyway. And I just turned 16. So I messaged this guy and I was on the phone with my best friend. I messaged this guy and I was like, hey, would you like to go on a date with me? he was like 19, I
Oh,
think. Like,
nice.
he was
Yeah.
way older. He was like not interested, like at all, like completely not his type at all. And I was like, hey, let's go on a date. Never, ever, ever responded. Like, shocking.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I remember I was like so nervous and I was like hyperventilating on the floor.
Oh, no.
But yeah, that's just kind of like my thing. Is I always like had crushes on people. Hey, maybe that's what happened with you. Maybe I had a crush on you because I thought I couldn't get you because you're 6 years older than me.
Yeah, and because I acted so aloof.
And because you're, yeah, so desperate, you're like, okay, I'll take that one. Kidding.
Nice.
Yeah. Um anyway, yeah, so I didn't know that that was a huge like factor
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
absolutely. Absolutely was.
interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple.
Anyway, we have just hit an hour, so I think we're gonna wrap this up here.
Yep.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
I'm just curious what your conversion stories are. I know there's not much that you can share with us in just a message on the comments section,
Yeah.
but I really would like to see different people's conversion stories if you've gotten this far because it's always so interesting to see
Other
how
people's
people are
perspective.
led to church, to
Or
the
even
gospel,
Jesus
to
Christ.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
to
Can be
um,
led to
turning
a
to
different
God.
church. Yeah.
Yeah, or even whatever God you worship, how are
Yeah.
you turned to them?
Yeah, we'd love to hear about that. Yeah. And also subscribe, like, comment, all those things that the YouTubers say.
Right.
And if you're listening on a podcast, I don't even know what you can do at that point because I've never uploaded a podcast or even interacted with a
Yeah,
podcast.
share the
Listen
podcast.
again, share it.
Right.
Tune in next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'd love to hear any comments that you guys have. And I think that's it. I think we're good.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. And we will talk to you again next week on Sunday at 10 a.m.
That is when we will upload. It'll be scheduled for then, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
That was, yeah.
this is Defenders of Zion podcast. Thank you for listening today.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
I talked for like 40 minutes. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
This is like 42.
Is that
40.
okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
45.
Did you want more
I think.
time?
Well, I figured it would be like that. And so that's why I talked more
Okay,
during
who was the
your
person?
conversation. Was